Welcome to the Betting Above the Rim podcast. Today's date, June 16th, episode 158. And let's get started with our tip-off topics with, there's a trade during the finals on a Sunday, but it's not Kevin Durant? A shocking trade took place yesterday as Desmond Bane was traded from the Memphis Grizzlies to the Orlando Magic, which included a package of KCP, Cole Anthony, 4 unprotected first-round pick, that's the key word, unprotected, and 1 first-round pick swap, according to Shams Charania. And it's a shocking move because it really came out of nowhere because although I did say on this podcast before that they were going to break up the Grizzlies, I didn't think it was going to happen during the finals. So let's take it really quickly from each team. For Orlando, we've talked about it a lot on this podcast that their Achilles heel is their shooting. They don't have the ability to knock down shots from the three-point line. So now you get one of the best shooters in the world in a catch-and-shoot situation, right, in Orlando and Desmond Bane. You have a point guard that's coming back from injury, obviously, and Jalen Suggs, who's having a good year. And it's a great defender, but not a great three-point shooter. Now he doesn't have to carry load. But the key is you got the space. Why? Because your 2 best players, Wagner and Banchero, play on the perimeter. And obviously, Paulo Banchero has been absolutely fantastic. Really underrated passer, as you will. And the same thing with Wagner. So now you have a guy that can catch and shoot and be a 42% shooter from 3, the space the floor, and along with Wendell Carter Jr., the Magic have officially said they're throwing their punch now. This is a young core. Desmond Bane is young as well. So it makes sense for Orlando to get this move to go with a starting lineup of Suggs, Bane, Wagner, Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr., Jonathan Isaac, Anthony Black, coming off the bench, Little Wagner, Tristan Da Silva. So they have sneaky athleticism, very good defensively, but needed a better shooter. Now, for Memphis, getting KCP, clubhouse guy, locker room guy, good guy, right? Cole Anthony, scoring punch off the bench. It's good, but it's about the picks. It's about the pick swap and the 4 first-round picks. Now, Orlando's point is we're looking at it as we're going into our championship window. It's a wide-open East. Those picks should be 21 through 30. We're going to take our chances. We'll not be in the lottery. If you are Memphis, you're hoping that they struggle and get to the lottery, or is there another move coming from Memphis? They already fired Taylor Jenkins. So that leaves 2 superstars left. One is John Morant, and the other is the guy I think gets moved, and that's Jaren Jackson Jr., who had a phenomenal year this year. You can reset the clock with this team, built around Ja. Remember, you've lost Zach Edey for all of next year. We don't know when Wells is going to come back from his freakish injury. So you build around those 3, and you get a trove load of draft picks for when you could try and make your move. I think a rebuild is coming to the Memphis Grizzlies. Let's head to a team that really was an overachieving team this year, and that is the Houston Rockets. And a very shrewd, smart move is re-signing Steven Adams for a 3-year, $39 million contract to stay with the franchise. Remember, he missed part of the season, but he became a good rotational piece down the stretch and into the playoffs. And this is going to be a guy that was going to be coveted in free agency. So to lock him up now makes sense. Could Steven Adams gotten more money in the open market? Yes, but he plays in Texas, so there's no state income tax. So he makes some money up that way as a player going to other cities. Now, what this does for Houston, it gives him flexibility, right? You could play him as a backup center by himself. You can play with a backup center, move Şengün to the 4 where he can play. So now does that mean could someone like Jabari Smith be on the trade market? Now, if you think about the way Steven Adams was with Memphis, is how Jaren Jackson Jr. benefited as guarding, being out, didn't have to guard the front of the rim. He could be a weak side shot blocker, not guard centers. That's what you're now going to get out of Şengün. Şengün to be able to stay out of foul trouble and play a little bit of 4-5 action with Steven Adams. Congrats to Steven on getting a well-deserved 3-year, $39 million contract. Let's head to the W for the rest of the segment and pretty much the rest of the show as the Indiana Fever got a huge 102-88 win over the New York Liberty. And why do we want to even start? Because girl done come back and she was trouble, trouble, trouble. And that is Caitlin Clark. What a performance. 37 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds. I don't care about the 7 turnovers. 11 of 20 from the floor, 7 out of 14 from 3. And there was a stretch. Late first quarter, Liberty up. She went back to back to back logo threes. I'm talking 30, 35 feet or further, and every shot was more difficult than the one before. And she literally put her team on her back. And it was a fantastic performance by Caitlin Clark to really already move the MVP mark. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But to me, what she did returning from injury was big for the Fever, but it was huge for the WNBA because it was part of a doubleheader, and the first game between Minnesota and the Sparks was an absolute snooze fest. Really quick, pull up that score real quick, Maddie. And that 102-88 win, I reached out to someone in the WNBA, and this is what this person said. They don't win that game, Indiana, if Jonquel Jones plays. And I want people to realize the importance that Double J brings to the Liberty. She may not be their best player, but according to people I've talked to in the league, she's their most important player. Big reason why the Liberty lost that game. Yes, it was Caitlin Clark, but Jonquel Jones was not in the lineup. Speaking of not in the lineup, the Las Vegas Aces now have Asia Wilson in concussion protocol after being ruled out of the game versus Dallas on Friday night. Now listen, that was the game they came back and won. The day before, she was absolutely dreadful against the Los Angeles Sparks. I have concerns about this team. I have spoken about it at length, and we'll talk more about my concerns with the Las Vegas Aces when we get to our award tour next. The other thing really quick to get to is Angel Reese had a triple-double. And congratulations to Angel Reese getting her first triple-double of her WNBA career in an 11-point, 13 rebound, 11 assist game during versus Connecticut Sun. Now, I've been critical of Angel. I still did not like her shooting percentage, and it's got to be better. But I must give respect where respect is due, and I've always talked about how hard this kid works, how much she wants to be a great player. And I want people to understand that I believe in Angel Reese. I think she's got to finish better. But there's a reason why that team won that game, and it was more than Angel Reese. It's Hailey Van Lith, who finally got unlocked, got the playing time, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 6 of 8 from the floor, 1 of 2 from 3. I said this the minute she got drafted, and I know the staff at TCU, when they got her back to being that scoring guard that she could be. I'm telling you this right now. Chicago messed this up when they did not play Sloot and her split the minutes. They're messing it up by bringing her off the bench. After that 16.5 rebound performance, I am begging the Chicago Sky, you are not going to the playoffs. Will you please put this kid in the starting lineup, play her 30 minutes, and see between her, Cardozo, and Reese if you have a future in Chicago. Coming up next, we'll get into our award tour. We'll get into the win total of the Atlanta Dream, a team that's got off to a great start. What do we expect now at the Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark back? We'll take a look. I'll talk about the Aces a little bit. We'll take a look at the MVP odds. Big Fish, she's losing her grip a little bit. Is that because Caitlin Clark is back? Is there another candidate? We'll be back with our award tour after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 158. And it's time to get into our award tour as we break down markets. We're going to break down markets in the WNBA, folks. We'll get back to the NBA next podcast when we talk about any kind of future odds, draft stuff, maybe do obviously Game 6 previews. But I want to focus the rest of this podcast exclusively to the WNBA. And it's a couple of interesting win totals to take a look at. Number one is the Atlanta Dream. Atlanta Dream's win total comes in at over 25.5 wins, over 144. It's juice plus 118 to the under. And it's really an interesting take for a team in Atlanta, which has been my surprise team in the WNBA with a record of 8-3. So when you think about this, having 8 wins already at their disposal, 33 games left to go. Remember, WNBA plays 44 games this season, instead of 40 to 42. So when you really think about it, that means that I need Atlanta to get 18 more wins. Can they get 18 wins out of 33 games left? Well, let's take a look at their schedule. They're the 7th easiest schedule left in the WNBA, right dead center in the middle of the pack, as my dog is causing a ruckus here in my office. 3 versus Dallas, 3 versus Connecticut, 3 versus Chicago, 2 versus LA, and 2 versus Washington. Those are their easier games. So if you think about that, right down in there, it's 9, 11, that's 13 games versus teams in the bottom half of the league. Top half of the league, it is 3 versus Minnesota, 4 versus New York, including tonight, 3 versus Phoenix, 3 versus Seattle, 3 versus Vegas, and 1 versus the Fever. You have to think that this team with Brianna Jones and Brittany Griner playing in that double big center lineup, but those 2 guards, these 2 right here, Alicia Gray has been absolutely fantastic, and Ryan Howard they had 9 made threes in their 88-70 win versus Chicago Sky over the weekend. I'm going to go over 25.5 wins for the surprise team in the WNBA, and that's the Atlanta Dream. Now let's get to the team that everybody wants to talk about, and that's the Indiana Fever. Right now, Indiana is coming in at a record of, I think it's 5-5 right now as we speak. 34 games left to go for Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and the Indiana Fever. Why I like this to go over, it's minus 118 to the over, minus 104 to the under. Why I like this to go over, folks, okay, so let's think about it. They got to get, right now, with 5 wins, to get to 29, they got to get 24, they got to go 24-10. Remember how great they were the second half of last year. They got to get Dewana Bonner and Natasha Howard on the same page with some of the holdovers, Sophie Cunningham, but they got Caitlin Clark back. Here's number 2. They have the easiest schedule left in the WNBA. Folks, they've already played the Liberty twice already, so they got 2 of them out of the way. They have 3 Minnesota, 2 New York, 1 Atlanta, because they played Atlanta 2 times already. 3 Phoenix, 3 Seattle, 3 versus Vegas. But here's the key. 4 versus Dallas, 3 versus Connecticut, 4 versus LA, 2 versus Washington. So right then and there, those are 16 games versus teams that are not very good. So the question is if they get 16, let's just say 16 games, they go 13-3 in that stretch. If they go 13-3, they've gotten to 18 wins. They got to get 11 more between some of the rest of the games that are left in their slate. I think they're going to do that. I firmly think this team is a top 3 team in the WNBA. And if you think about the strength of schedule, the fact that they've gotten the two of the 4 New York games out of the way. Remember, the 2 New York games that are left are both going to be in New York. So remember that. And obviously, they gave New York a loss with John Paul Jones being out of the lineup on Saturday afternoon. But to me, I think this is a really good spot for Indiana Fever team that I think is a top 3 team, top 4 team, and worse in the WNBA. So if you look at New York going to have the most wins, then you're probably looking at Minnesota. The 3rd best record probably is going to go to Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Look at over 28.5 wins. Let's get to the MVP market because it shifted. Why? I told you. When she came back, she was going to shift the market. Big Fish, the Fisher Collier, still leads at a minus 370. Caitlin Clark plus 270. And then after that, folks, bet at your own risk. 45-1 for Stewie, 50-1 for Asia, 150-1 to the combination of Alyssa Thomas and Satu Sabali, along with Sabrina Ionescu. Alicia Gray at 251. That's a sleeper of all sleepers. Kelsey Plum, Angel Reese, 250-1. Now, you remember what I've always said, folks. I believe that you have to be a top 4 to top 5 team in a WNBA to really be considered to be most valuable to their team. If you look at what has transpired, Caitlin Clark, folks, I checked. Saturday before tip-off on FanDuel, she was plus 370 to be MVP. Then I checked right after the game, she was plus 310. And then just now, this afternoon, Monday afternoon, she is plus 270. What does that mean? She's going to move markets. If they could stay healthy, if she can stay healthy and put up the stats that she was putting up before she got injured, and she's able to be that almost double-double, sometimes triple-double player, and that team ends up where I think they should be, which is a top 3, top 4 seed, they're going to give her the vote. They're going to give her the MVP. The other thing you have to look at is, even though in the feature column, the big feature has been absolutely fantastic, Minnesota has the 5th hardest schedule left to go in the WNBA. They still have to play Vegas all 4 times. Still got to play New York all 4 times. Still got to play Atlanta 3 times. And the easiest strength of schedule to start the season, one of the easiest, has been the Indiana Fever. So if I'm looking at Indiana, not the Indiana Fever, the Minnesota Lynx, if I'm expecting a little bit of a drop-off by that means a drop-off for Fish, and then Indiana takes off, then you should be looking at that with Indiana and Caitlin Clark to be MVP. Coming up next, we're going to go into our scouting report. We're going all WNBA. Connecticut versus Indiana. Huge spread tomorrow night. Atlanta versus New York. New York coming off a loss. And we have a couple other games we'll break down as we will do our scouting report after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 158, and it's time to get into our scouting reports as we break down games in the WNBA. With the NBA being finals on Monday night, WNBA takes off Monday, and they have 5 games in the W on Tuesday night. Let's go in chronological order, starting with Marina Mabrey and the Connecticut Sun taking on Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Once again, folks, with these games, I'll probably have some more stuff. Make sure you check out the Sports Grid app tomorrow, which I'll have my scouting report with plays and props in the game. Early leans here, I'm looking at, honestly, I'm looking at Caitlin Clark for a double-double at minus 130. She just missed out on it last time. I'm not going to touch the spread with it being 15.5, 16 points. So I'm going to kind of stay away from there. If I think that Caitlin Clark is going to get a double-double, it's always good to pair it up with Aaliyah Boston. Aaliyah Boston just missed out on her points prop last time. They dropped it down to 12.5. Connecticut, terrible defensively. You got to get Aaliyah Boston going. Look for Aaliyah Boston to go over 12.5 points. Caitlin Clark double-double in the matchup between Connecticut and Indiana. Let's move on to the next game at 7 o'clock, and that's going to be I think a pretty high-profile scoring matchup, and that's the Atlanta Dream versus the New York Liberty. Right now, New York Liberty, minus 8.5-point favorites, 163 on the over-under, folks. It's very simple. I need to know, and we thought she was going to play, was Jonquel Jones going to be a factor? She did not play against Indiana. I'm going right to Jonquel Jones, the number 2 rebounder in the WNBA, at minus 105. Why? Because Brianna Jones and Brittany Griner are on the other side. Brittany Griner stays on the inside, should keep Jonquel on the boards. Jonquel Jones, double-double, -105. In regards to the play, it's probably a stay away from me. I think 8.5 points is way too much. If anything, I'm going to look at over 163 because I think there's going to be fireworks in this game. Let's head to the third matchup, and that's Chicago versus Washington. A Washington team that really has been on a little bit of a free fall as of late, but they're still 3.5-point favorites versus the Chicago Sky. And I'm going to be looking squarely to see, and they don't have it yet. I'm going to see if they're going to hang props for Hailey Van Lith tomorrow. I think this is someone that should be able to get busy. If you kind of look at other props out there, looking at the double-double market for someone like Angel Reese, now they're hanging triple-double odds because she just got one, 75-1. Hold your money. Not going to happen. Double-double market for Angel Reese at -120. Pretty interesting match between her and Kiki Iafin. But I do like Angel Reese to get a double-double at -120. I'll have a play on the game tomorrow. Fourth game, is going to be, looks like that is the Valkyries versus the Dallas Wings. And folks, yes, the Valkyries are underdogs on the road at Dallas. And my question to you all is, why? Why? I mean, Dallas has not been good, but Page has been markedly better. Valkyries have had some pretty quality wins. It's going to be interesting here, but I am leaning on Golden State plus 3 points. When you look at Paige Beckers, Paige has gotten markedly better. Over 18.5 points at even money is probably my lean here. And if you want something for the Valkyries, I would look at Kayla Thornton over 1.5 made threes. It's at -178. That's a lot of juice if you want her to get 3+ made threes at +182. So pick very closely. Last game in the W that night, and that's going to be the Seattle Storm versus the Los Angeles Sparks. Tip-off time of 10 p.m. Right now, Seattle is -4. Interesting to look at here. I would look at Seattle. I think they're really good. I like that big double lineup with obviously Medgaber and Gabby Williams and Nwumike. I know that Los Angeles scores a lot of points, but God, they looked awful versus Minnesota. I'm going to lay the points with the Seattle Storm. One more game of note really quickly. Las Vegas, Minnesota. Vegas is getting 9 points. We don't know about the status of Asia Wilson and concussion protocol. Also be on the lookout for that because I want to see the full health report and see if Asia Wilson is going to play, because obviously if Asia Wilson is going to play, that -9 probably moves by about 3 points to a 5.5, 6. So I'll give that also my scouting report tomorrow. This has been your Betting Above the Rim podcast, episode 158 for June 16th. For all things sports gambling, download that Sports Grid app. Pre-game, in-game, post-game, props, predictions, and more from the very best in the sports gambling industry. For my producer, Matty George, Vinny does a great job with the graphics. Thanks for listening, folks. And please always remember, it's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Good night.